the good life. Yeah, we're gonna do it all night.
Tonight, we're gonna live the good life. Alright, let's go and live the good life, the good life. Tonight, we're gonna live the good life. Alright, let's go and live the good life, the good life.
Good morning, Jackson. Say hey, everybody. It's just me and Jackson today. We just got back from dropping Bryson off at school. We walked Tinley up a little earlier. And today, I don't really have much going on, but I figured Friday is Peyton's second birthday, January 10th. So I figured today I would kind of go into a little bit more detail than I have before about her story, what happened, and kind of just everything that goes along with her. I know I've kind of mentioned things here and there through the vlog, and I've had a couple of sweet mamas contact me after losing their little one. So this will just kind of go along with like the pregnancy vlog, stillbirth vlog part of things. So hopefully, you know, somebody will see it and it will help you. That's the whole reason I share her story, and I'm so vocal about it, because I know it helped me when other moms would reach out to me, or you know, when I would share something about her, I would have like just a community of people just, you know, come walk, you know, the grief path with me. And I've met so many sweet people and now close friends through this. So my whole goal in sharing about her and the journey it's been, or the journey we've been on, is all to try to maybe help just one mom out who may be grieving, and then one mom out who wants to have another baby. Here's our little rainbow. So anyways, hope this helps. I'll share her story shortly. And we're still not, honestly, still not 100% sure what happened to Peyton. The hospitalist had thought he pulled out partial molar pregnancy just because of my hormones or levels, things being so high. But my signs didn't really point towards that. She didn't really point towards that. She looked so perfect. I will say my placenta was the size of a 40-week or so placenta, and she was only 23 weeks gestation when she passed away. So my placenta was huge. It had blown up. It was in, I think, 13 pieces, 11 or 13 pieces. And it was like black and like sick looking. Like it looked infected and sick. So I don't really know. They did some testing on the placenta and it had shown like chromosomal abnormalities. But I didn't really do any further testing. I didn't do an autopsy on Peyton. I didn't want to go through all that. You know, she was gone, and I knew it was nothing I did, and there was nothing I could have prevented. So that was it. I wasn't gonna go any farther. When we got pregnant with Jackson, we had to meet with a MFM, a maternal fetal medicine specialist, and she seemed to think it was something more along the lines of triploidy, which is a chromosomal abnormality. It's when 2 sperm fertilize 1 egg. So she seemed to think it was something more along the lines of that, which to me sounds a little bit more like what it could be. But we're still just not 100% sure. And it's hard because I'd find myself second guessing everything. Every now and then I think like, what, you know, is there something I could have done? But there's not. There's absolutely not. And my doctor has told me this over and over. There's nothing. Everything looked great until it didn't look great anymore. And at that point, there's nothing we could do. And so I just have to kind of cut it off at that. So I had to stop. I'll like send myself down a rabbit hole trying to figure it out, and I can't do that to myself. It's not right. So Jackson is playing in his pack and play, so let's see how much I can get into before he gets ugly. And before you get mad at mama for not paying attention. He's looking at me and it's so cute. Oh my gosh. So I guess I'll just start off just talking about Peyton. She was a surprise, first off. We had 2 kids, Bryson and Tinley. We had no intentions of having another baby. And she surprised us all. We were not trying, we were preventing, and you know, all the things that come along with that. But somehow we got pregnant with baby Peyton. And I found out August or September of 2017. And I was training for a half marathon. I was supposed to go to Disney and run this big race in February, and like all my plans were just like, whoo, out the door. And it was just crazy. Like, I just remember thinking like, oh my God, I'm not ready for another one. Bryson's only 2, you know, Tinley's in school. We have so much going on. But as it sunk in, you know, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Like, I didn't know I wanted another baby, but oh my gosh, I do. Like, I can't, I'm so excited. So after a couple, you know, days of processing it, Brett and I were like, okay, we're having this baby and we are so excited. We can't wait to add a 3rd crazy into the family. And we were thrilled. We went to our appointments and everything was perfect. We found out it was a girl and I was so excited. I love my little girls. I love my boys too. There is nothing sweeter than a mom and a boy. Your boys, I don't know, boys are so sweet. But I love my girls too. And I think everybody wants a girl. I mean, all the sweet dresses and the clothes and the, you know, I had Tinley and then I had Bryson and I had all these clothes from both of them. Really, I was saving, and I don't know why I was saving them. I guess just maybe one day to give them back to them for their own children. But Tinley was always decked out in like Sweet Honey and Matilda Jane and just all the cutest little boutique ruffles and flowers and just super girly sweet things, smocked. So when Bryson came along, like Brett and I don't really typically like that kind of style for boys. I don't like the smocks. I don't like the, you know, I like more of like the hipster style for boys, just super cute, like just boyish. So I was super excited to dress another little girl, and I had all these cute things saved from Tinley. So I was super excited to be able to pull them out and, you know, get to use them. I grew up, I had sisters and brothers, but I grew up and I loved having a sister. So I was excited for Tinley to be able to experience that. So time goes on and we find out she's a girl. And then at our next appointment, we did like an early scan to see that she was a girl. So I went back in for my actual anatomy scan, and that's when it all started. The whole pregnancy was a little bit different. I was sicker than normal than I was with my other babies. And I don't know, it was weird. Like, the bigger I got, it was like when I would sit down, I would have this pain like in my bottom that I'd never felt before. I'd get up and I'd have a shooting pain through my bottom that I didn't remember having before. So something in me, I just had this weird feeling. Again, like I said, I didn't really feel her moving much. So I talked myself into everything was okay. Pregnancies are different. Everything, you know, everything's different each time. So I just kind of went against my gut instinct. So we get to her anatomy scan. I'm at 19 weeks, and the doctor, you know, we go in to see the doctor afterwards. She looks great. Everything looks great, but she had a little fluid buildup kind of starting around her pelvic area. And the doctor was like, you know, it's nothing to be super concerned about right now, but we need to keep a watch on it. I'll have to check it. And then the doctor also mentioned that I had this extra like flap on my placenta, so she didn't really know what that was. And it didn't look too concerning. So she just said, hey, we'll just have to make sure when you deliver, like, there's some extra placenta in there. We'll have to make sure we get everything out, you know. So she was discussing that. And so we thought, okay, well, we'll just come back in a couple weeks. We'll check it. Hope, we'll pray. Hopefully it'll go away. Everything's going to correct itself. Hopefully it's not a big deal. Well, at that 19-week appointment, we left. We were going to be going back when I was at 24 weeks, and we were going to do another scan just to check everything. Well, in those couple weeks, I started to swell. I started to get really big in the belly. I started to get more uncomfortable. It hurt to walk. It was really weird when I would sit down. Like I said, that pain in my bottom, like something just didn't feel right. I was too tired. Like, I know I have 2 kids I'm chasing around and I'm pregnant, but I was too tired. I'm a very energetic person. I'm very active, and I was way too tired. And even my husband, even Brett was like, something's not quite right. This is weird. Like you're too tired. So what is it, baby? Hey, you want to play with this? Look. Oh, look at that. Look, get Rex. So, he's getting mad at me. So I just, kind of went about it, and I thought, well, different pregnancy. It's my 3rd. Maybe my body's just like really struggling here. So, around 22 weeks is when I really noticed the swelling in my hands and my feet. And it wasn't too terrible. It wasn't enough to alarm me. So I thought, just a little swelling. I'm swelling a little earlier than normal. Usually I don't swell till I'm like in my 35 or up week. I just don't swell that bad. So I went about it. 23 weeks hits and it starts going downhill. My stomach gets huge. I'm not really feeling her move at all, really. Every time I check her heartbeat's good and strong. So I didn't worry. I just thought maybe that extra flap of placenta, like maybe it's just preventing me from feeling her. Maybe she's, I don't know. And my hands, my feet, my legs, I was so swollen that it got to the point where Brett was like, something's wrong. Like this isn't right. So the day before I was 24 weeks, it was January 9th. I go in, I teach at our church, our weekday program. So I go in that morning to teach, and I'm so swollen. Everybody's like, whoa, like you are really swollen. Like you need to prop your feet. Like, how's your blood pressure? Is anything? I'm like, I don't know. I haven't really checked my blood pressure. I didn't really think about it. So through the day, I get more swollen and more swollen and more swollen, and I'm just not feeling good. I'm seeing these weird spots, and I feel awful. So I have a friend who's a labor and delivery nurse, and I texted her, showed her a picture of my feet, and told her what was going on. She was like, get to the hospital. You need to be checked. That sounds like preeclampsia. She said, have you been feeling baby move? And I said, well, I don't really ever feel her move. And the last time I checked her heart rate was a couple days ago. So I run home, and I call Brett. I'm like, look, you've got to get the baby, Bryson, and you've got to be home to wait on Tinley. I bet they're going to admit me. I think I have preeclampsia. So he was like, okay, do I need to come with you? He's like, I need to go with you. Like this, you don't need to be alone. And he said, what if they do admit you? Like, what do I do? I said, well, just go ahead and get our bags packed. I'm sure I'll have to stay. Like, you need to be home to get Tinley and let her know what's going on so she doesn't freak out. And then we'll have somebody come to the house later, and you can come up to the hospital if I do have to stay. So I get to the hospital, and I have to see the on-call doctor because my doctor was busy that day. So they just automatically, put you with, I guess, whoever's on call and can see you. So they checked my blood pressure, and it was 140/90. And the nurse is taking it, and she's talking to me. And when I ask her, and she tells me, my doctor sticks her head around the wall and goes, excuse me. She said, what was that? And the girl said it was 140/90. She said, that's not. She said, she's not a preeclamptic type patient. She said her other 2 pregnancies were perfect. She's like, are you sure? And she looked at me, and she saw how swollen I was. She said, nope. She's like, I'm taking over. I'm going to see her. She said, send her to ultrasound. So they immediately sent me to ultrasound. And y'all, I had gained like a crazy amount of weight between that 19-week appointment and this 24-week appointment. I think it was like 23 pounds I had gained. So they immediately wanted to do an ultrasound just to make sure everything was okay with her and everything was okay. So I'm waiting in the lobby, and I still don't think anything's wrong. I'm texting everybody. I'm calling Brett, letting him know. And Brett's freaking out at this point because he wants to be there with me, and I had made him stay. And now I know why. So I go back to get my ultrasound, and immediately when she puts it on, it's silent. And she's kind of feeling around, and she's real quiet. And I said, and Peyton was just there, like just laying there, like she wasn't moving. I looked for the flicker in her little heart, because I know what she's doing. She's checking to see if she's alive at this point, and there's no flicker. And she said, hold on, I'm gonna go get your doctor. And I said, no. I said, tell me. I said, she's dead. She's dead. And she sat down and she started crying, and she said, I'm just so sorry. I'm so sorry. And she sat there, and she climbed up in the little bed with me, and she just held me, and she just prayed, and she was so sorry, and she was so upset, and I couldn't even, like, I just couldn't get it together. I was like, oh my God, like, my baby's gone. And I immediately, when she walks out to tell the doctor, I call Brett. And that was one of the worst sounds and phone calls I ever had to make. Oh, it was awful. So he immediately gets someone to rush here to the house so that he could come to me, because my doctor was so concerned over why I was so sick, and I was getting sicker and sicker, and I was getting more swollen, and my blood pressure was getting worse. And so she said, you can't leave, like, you have to stay, like, we have to figure out what's going on with you. She said, we got to deliver her. She said, but first we've got to figure out and get you stable to where we can deliver her or take her. So they immediately rushed me down to labor and delivery and get everything started. And Brett gets there super fast. And, you know, he's all by himself, and he has to tell the kids. Bryson doesn't understand, but Tinley, it wrecked her. Like, she struggled. She was 7, so she knew what was going on. So someone gets here to get the kids, and he gets to me. My mom gets to me, and my sister. They all get to the labor and delivery room, and our pastor came, and it was just, I don't know. To me, I feel like all of that, it's all like a haze, and I think it's a blur, and I just try to block it out as much as I can. But I'll never forget just getting hooked up. They put me in an area of the hospital where I guess more things like this happen. It's quieter, so I don't hear the other babies. I don't hear, you know, the happiness going on around me. We're kind of more secluded. And so I get down there, they're hooking me up. Everybody gets there, you know, Brett, my mom, my sister. And I just remember, like, it's awful. Because you know you're about to give birth. You're about to go through all of that. And your baby's dead. I mean, you know, you're not going to hear her cry. You're not going to get any of that. You're not going to get to see her first bath. You're not going to get to put her in the sweet clothes that you've bought her. You're not going to get to do any of that. So, it was just such a surreal experience. And I just remember thinking, I want to get it over with. Like, please, oh Lord, just let the next couple weeks, years, months, whatever, just please let them fly by so that I don't have to feel this broken. Like, I felt so broken. I know, like, I was happy for the children that I had at home, but I was so broken for the baby that I will never get to know, you know? So I go through the night, and I'm just dreading having to deliver her. I'm just dreading it. And I asked the nurses, like, what is she going to look like? Like, what can I expect? And they said it kind of varies at this point at 24 weeks. Like, it depends on how long she's been gone, and so many factors, I guess, involved with it. So January 10th rolls around, and it's the day that I give birth to Peyton. And so I just remember, like, it was just so, like, somber. Like, all of the nurses, like, it was just such a somber thing. And I know, like, I know everyone hated having to come in my room, because that's not what you want to do. Delivering babies is supposed to be happy. It's supposed to be exciting. And they knew coming in, like, it was about to be just emotional. Like, it's just awful. And I remember they tried, but I could hear babies through the night crying, and I could hear like, and you could hear all that. It was just, God, it was so devastating because I knew like I was about to not be able to hear that. So I delivered her around 1 o'clock, and I just remember as soon as she was born, like I was so out of it. Everything was so hazy. I was so tired, and like I didn't feel right. I was really sick to my stomach, and I don't know. It was like I was out of body. Don't think I'll ever be able to describe it. Something felt weird. And I remember Brett kept saying, "Hey, are you okay? You all right?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm okay. I'm just really tired." And so my parents were there to visit. Brett's parents were there to visit. We had some people, sweet people from the church, come and they were just stayed in the lobby and just prayed for me while I was in there having her. So she's here. I delivered her, and she's beautiful. She looks absolutely perfect. Her little nose, she was real fluid filled. Her body had just filled up with fluid. So whatever was happening in her pelvis at 19 weeks just took over her body. She was completely full of fluid. Her belly was measuring 33 weeks when she was gestationally only 23. So something, I'm still not quite sure, but something happened there. So I continue to get sicker and sicker. Whoa! Hey. So I continue to get sicker and sicker, and I remember at one point everybody was gone. It was starting to get night outside. No. And I'm getting sicker and sicker, and so it's starting to turn nighttime. And I had wanted Peyton to be in the room with me as much as she was allowed to be. You know, when they're born and they're not alive, like their skin is very frail and fragile. So, you know, all of the layers of skin start to peel, and you know, you just have to be super careful because their skin is like paper thin. So they had to be, they couldn't bathe her off. They couldn't do too much with her just because, you know, her skin was breaking off and things. And I know I only had, you know, a little bit of time with her. We had to start making the arrangements. We had to get the funeral home to come get her. You only have so much time. So she's in there with Brett and my mom. Brett's holding her. And I guess I don't really remember what happened. I was so out of it. I don't remember that time from everybody being there, everybody leaving. It's just, I don't know if it's more of a blur to me because I blocked it out or because I was sick. I don't really know. All I know is that we're all there and I'm throwing up and I'm sick. And each time I get up to throw up, there's water just gushing down my back. And I keep saying, like, I'm wet. Like, I'm wet back here. Why am I wet? Like, my back, I'm sweating. Like, something, like, it feels like water is just dripping down my back. Well, I get up to throw up again, and that's when they see I'm third spacing. So basically, out of my epidural, the hole for my epidural, I'm like leaking water. Fluid is trying to get out of me any way that it can, because my body was like, I guess basically drowning, like on the inside, like like everything was filling up with water. I was, pulmonary edema is what it was. So at that point, I'm coughing really, really bad. And my amazing, incredible nurse, the most amazing person I've ever met in my life, her name was Jessica. I felt like she was there, like, she's the one I feel like that really, like, saved my life almost. Like, if she hadn't been there and hadn't been paying so much close attention, like, I could have gotten a lot sicker, I feel like. So I'm laying there, I'm coughing. She sits me up and she's like, I don't really like the way she sounds. She's like, I'll be right back. So she leaves, and I just remember I'm laying there on my back, in and out. Everything's real foggy and hazy around me. And she comes back with, I think, like 5 other nurses and the hospitalist. Something was wrong. My blood pressure was going crazy. I was, again, third spacing. There was too much fluid in me. I remember Brett looking at me. He goes, she's like gray and yellow. Like, why does she look like that? And that's when the doctor comes in, and he is just loud, boisterous, like no bedside manner whatsoever. But I loved him. Like, I absolutely love it. I'm so thankful he was there. He starts shouting out things, and he's like, look, like, I don't have time to look at a chart. I need her to, like, talk to me. Y'all help, you know. And he's calling out all these things, and he basically tells my mom and Brett, like, we're trying to make sure she doesn't clot or something, throw a clot and die. Like, this is serious. I guess my blood pressure was so high. I don't know if he was worried about me having a stroke or if he was worried about me. I don't really know the full details, and I don't know that I really want to think back on them that much and ask too much about it. But all I know is he was super worried, and they were all working really fast. And I think at one point they were talking about transferring me over to ICU. And I just was thinking, like, good God, like, Lord, like, why? Like, you take her and you're making me go through all this too. Like, how much am I going to have to deal with? I just remember being scared. I was so scared. So I thought, Lord, like, don't take me from my babies. Like, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know how serious it was, but I was just so scared I was going to die. And I didn't want my babies to have to go through the loss of their sister plus their mom. And then poor Brett's there, like, having a come apart. He's holding Peyton, and he's like, someone get her, like, get her out of here. Like, I need to focus on my wife. He's like, what is happening? Like, is she going to be okay? Because I know he's thinking, like, am I going to go home totally empty-handed and have to tell my children, like, I'm sorry, we've lost your mom and your sister. I just can't imagine. And he just, like, falls to the floor, and he just loses it. And my mom, God love her, she was so strong. Like, she was so, like, zoned in, and, like, has, like, not that much, like, medical background, or, you know, but she was, like, saying things and, you know, asking questions that, you know, I'm like, how did you know all this? Like, she was so calm, and she, like, picked Brett up off the floor and was like, look, we've got to get it together. We got to focus. Like, she was so, like, I don't know, just in that moment when I thought she would have been the one that was losing it, she was the one that was like, hey, look, like, we gotta be strong. So I'm thankful that Brett had her there with him, because he didn't need to be going through all that alone. He needed someone to help him through. So I get better. They put me on Lasix to pull the fluid off of me, and magnesium sulfate to get, I guess that does something with my blood pressure. I can't remember. And they were warning me about this mag drag and, like, all this stuff that was about to happen, that I was going to be miserable on this magnesium. But y'all, like, it brought me to life. Like, that magnesium was the best thing ever. I felt like a new person. So I was fine. I was better that next morning, and I was able to hold Peyton, and oh, you okay, baby? Oh, he just knocked his noggin. And our pastor came back and prayed with us, and that was the day we were saying goodbye to Peyton. That was the last day I was ever going to hold my baby. That was the last day I was ever going to look at her in the face and be able to give her kisses, and just the last time. And it was a hard day. It was January 11th. I don't know which day was harder, the 9th, 10th, or 11th. I mean, they were all horrible days. So we said our goodbyes. We handed her off to the funeral home to have her cremated. I chose cremation because in that moment, I couldn't bear the thought of, like, her not being with me 24/7. I wanted to know she was in my home. She was safe. I could, you know, have her, look at her ashes. I could just have her urn with me. And I wanted that. In that moment, that's what I thought worked best for me. I've had friends that have done the burial, and I think that's amazing too. It's all just in kind of what you prefer. So we sent her off, and I vaguely remember some of that. Brett's dad handled that for us. Thank goodness, because I couldn't do it. And I remember at one point the funeral home coming and talking to us and kind of going over some things with us. And I don't remember if she showed us the urn. I don't know how this one got picked, but it is absolutely perfect in every way. I'll show you it. It's so sweet. This is her little urn. It's got a little teddy bear. Oh, I hope it'll focus. Wait, let me get it. So, y'all. Okay, so it's got a little teddy bear, and it's got all this pretty little pink design around it, and it's so tiny. Like, I mean, it's like, here's my hand on it. It's so tiny. And when we planned her memorial, I don't think, I didn't see it before then. Brett's dad picked it up for us and all that. Like, and when I walked into her little memorial and saw how tiny it was, like, it broke me. Like, I guess what could I expect for a 2-pound baby? But God, it was just so tiny, and it just made me so sad to think, like, that little tiny baby, like, she's just gonna, I don't know. But I have to remember it's just her body, it's just her ashes, it's not her. She's in somewhere, she's in heaven, she's in a place far better than, you know, here. She's the lucky one, honestly. So I just have to kind of remember that. But we go home, and my sweet nurse that I had texted the day that I went into the hospital, she wheeled me out, and she made sure, y'all, and I know they do this for everybody, I'm sure, but she made sure that she put up everybody's birth announcements. You know how they put the cute little, like, signs outside of the door? Well, she put everybody's up so that I would not have to go through those halls and see all of the babies and all of the announcements and all the happiness. She put me down different elevators so I didn't have to see people, and it was just so sweet that people really were super worried about, you know, they worry about us. It's a lot to go through, and they just went above and beyond and making me feel, I guess, take the extra mile so that it wasn't even harder leaving. But leaving empty-handed without Peyton was, God, I think that's one of the worst things that's ever, I mean, leaving that hospital without anything and having all the stuff that comes along with labor and delivery and no baby to hold was awful. I remember getting home, and it was the second night I was home. So it was like the 12th. I woke up, and my milk came in, and I was just sitting up in bed just crying because it hurt so bad. And I just was like, I can't catch a break. Like, now I have to deal with my milk coming in and drying my milk up, and it was just so painful. And it was just one more thing that it was like, here's your milk your body's making because your body knows you delivered your baby, but you can't feed her because she's not here. And that was so hard. It breaks my heart to think of all, you know, the other moms that are going through that right now, because I know how awful it was. So on my birthday was on the 13th, so I had her on the 10th, and then I celebrate my birthday on the 13th. It was a very, very somber birthday. But I was so thankful to be home with my babies. We made the best of it. But the next day, I started seeing spots again. I was really swollen. And I was like, I feel like I should not be this swollen. Like, why am I still so swollen? Maybe it's just taking time. Well, I start seeing the spots, and I'm starting to cough again. My cough sounds awful like it did in the hospital. And Brett's like, we're going back up. We're just going. So I called my nurse, and she's like, well, my blood pressure was 145 over, I can't remember at that point. Maybe it wasn't quite that high. It was like 140 over 90 maybe. And she's like, well, let's go take a rest. Like, go lay down. Try to get your mind off of it, and let's just see what happens. So I did that, and then an hour later, Brett was like, hey, wake up, let's check because you're coughing so bad. He's like, let's check your blood pressure. Well, we checked it, and it was 145 over 115. And he said, get in the car. I'm not waiting on a phone call. I'm taking you to the hospital. And that's when I called my nurse on the way, and she said, you need to come in immediately. Come into the, OBER. I said, I'm already here. I said, I'm walking in. She said, okay. So they immediately, did the checks, and my levels were still super high, and all my hormones and my HCG, all that was still high. My blood pressure was sky high again, and the swelling was awful. So they put me back on Lasix, put me back on magnesium, and I stayed in the hospital for 4 more days. So it was a nightmare that just would not end. They put me right there by the reception desk. And every few minutes I would hear baby be born. I would hear the sweet little music be played, and it was just another reminder, like, just a constant reminder about her. And it was so hard, but in a way I was thankful for being back at the hospital, because mentally I wasn't ready to be home. I was constantly crying. I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to do anything. And my poor kids at home, Bryson and Tinley, were suffering, and it wasn't fair to them. I was not mentally ready to be home. So I look at it as almost like a godsend to have had to go back to the hospital, because it gave me 4 days to just like cope and just get it all out. I cried so much. I slept so much. I really got to process, and I think it was good for both me and Brett, honestly. So I check out of the hospital and finally go home. And I remember just praying, like, please, Lord, like, let this year fly by. I want to get as far away from this pain as possible. But it also started, my testimony comes from all of that. Like, I was baptized from that. I really think that I grew closer to God because of her. For me, it brought me closer to him, because in those moments of being so broken and being so scared for my own life, I drew closer to him. And I know 100% like that was her purpose. Like, she lived out her purpose, and it's far bigger than what most of us can do here on earth, like through her story. So I was baptized, and at my baptism, 2 other people heard my story, and they were baptized not long after. And I know, like, even if it was just to save them or that mama who had suffered a miscarriage, like, that's good enough for me, because in the end, that's all that matters. So God's plan for her was bigger than I could have ever imagined, and I truly believe that, she lived out her purpose, and that was her purpose. And that's what helps me get through. And it helps me get through because I know I'll see her again. I don't know what your beliefs are. I don't know, what you believe, what you choose to believe. But for me, I believe in God, and I believe in heaven, and I know that she's there waiting on us, without a doubt in my mind. And that's how I make it through every day. It is. I mean, I don't think that there's any other way to get through it if you don't believe that. I just don't. So my biggest prayer and my biggest, want for all of the mamas and the families going through this is just, like, let it draw you closer to God. Because in the end, like, you can't get through it without it. It's a horrible, horrible thing to experience. And what they say, in the Bible, the verse, he brings beauty from the ashes. And that's so true, because, I look at Jackson and I think, as hard as it is that she's not here, and as bittersweet as it is, he wouldn't be here. And there's big plans for Jackson one day. So, he's our little rainbow, and we're just so thankful he's here. He's the happiest, sweetest little thing. And I know Peyton had such a big part in, making him perfect and picking him out for us and sending him to us. And I know that she would be so proud. I know that she would love him. And I'm very thankful that he's here. So that's kind of her story. I think I touched mostly on it. Of course, there's far more that goes into it. There's far more that goes into the healing process. There's far more that goes into just the, daily. Some days are good, some days are bad. But I will say, for anybody going through this right now, I know you can't breathe. You can't catch your breath. You can't get out of bed. You can't, you think that you'll never be happy again. You think that you'll never smile again. You'll never laugh again. Like, the pain is so great that you just don't see how you could. You will. You have to get up. You have to live life. You can't move on. You can never move on from them, but you have to live out your new normal. You can't let the grief take you. You can't let it take over you. You have to use their story. Keep them alive somehow, make them proud. Share their story. Share the story of you going through it. Help other moms. Create a purpose for your baby and, go forward. And like I said, live your new normal, and try your best to, like I said, not let the grief and depression overtake you, because that's nothing more than the devil just trying to get you down. Life is too short, and it's too great to not live it to its fullest. So anyways, that's our story, and I hope it helps somebody. And I'm so sorry to any mommies that have found me because you have lost a baby. It breaks my heart for you. And I find myself a lot of times, in just my quiet time or at night when I wake up, a lot of times I just say a prayer for you. And I'm just so sorry that you have to go through it. But anyways, thanks for listening, and we'll see you back for Peyton's birthday. We'll take you around with us. We're gonna go do some happy things around town and just celebrate her life because it was so great and special. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.